Well, happy Friday, everyone. I'm Erica Lukes, your host of Expanding Frontiers, and I'm happy to be here every Friday night, well, almost every Friday night, and see all of my wonderful friends getting into chat and spreading the word, staying up late. And so I just want to say, hey, Peter, hey, Ken, Jim, Simon, all of you, I really appreciate your input. I appreciate your support. Make sure you click, subscribe, like, share. These are things that I do not do enough during the show. I don't promote my own show. And so I would highly encourage all of you to do that. And I appreciate it when you do. Peter has gone above and beyond to help share on different social media platforms the shows that I have lined up. I also want to give a little shout out to Mario Lafreniere, who has been a constant supporter of mine over the almost a decade now that I've been doing this show. And my, haven't you seen me blossom and grow and wither and be reborn? This whole process. You've seen my shamanic dismemberment in front of, well, God and everybody. So it's been fun. But I hope at the end of the day that as you listen to my shows, past and present, that you understand that I have been very fortunate to go through what I have gone through, but I have also done a lot of hard work to make sure I'm digging behind the scenes, making connections. When I talk about something, I know what I'm talking about. If I have an opinion about something and it is potentially a negative opinion, it is because I've been exposed to certain people and I've seen that they aren't telling the truth. And so for me, for Jack Brewer, for my guest this evening, we all want the truth. And I know you listen to this show because you want the truth, and we deserve it after 70 plus years of what we've been dealing with. That's all I'm going to say. I will get off my pulpit. And hey, Amy and Scotty and everyone else here. So I'm going to add Lou Angeles, Lou Reviews.
Hello, Lady Lukes.
Marvelous man, like who just I was telling everybody before the show. I was telling Lou before the show. I'm like, every time I see a picture of you or like watch one of your videos, it's just like this. You've got such a great smile, and
Thank you.
it just I love the way that you. I don't know. I really appreciate what you've been through because you've been very upfront. You've been through the same process that I have, and
I wouldn't say that, but yeah,
well, I mean,
similar.
probably.
Close. He's close. I flew too close to the sun as well, but I don't think I got quite as burned as you did.
Okay, good point. Yeah, that it's
Yeah,
been an interesting ride, but I mean,
yeah.
like, I love the fact that we can actually like have the humility to come
Mhm.
out here and say, okay, I stepped in it. I promoted somebody who was promoting a shape-shifting werewolf. I get it. And I
Mhm.
understand how when you get into a subject and you're approached by, a world-renowned, according to his own bio, physicist, and this person attached to this $22 million project, and they're talking to you, that's like a cool thing, and you get wrapped up, like you with the Lou Elizondo thing. And
Mhm.
so I think it's a very important process for all of us to be forthright and to have this legacy out there for people to listen to and learn from. And I respect that about you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the difference between Lou and I think the Skinwalker team is there are aspects of the Skinwalker team where I could like, okay, I can see why you guys did that. Um, and I guess we'll dive into those reasons because the thing I guess for me when it comes to them as well is I don't have the history um knowledge that you do of that area. And so when it comes to the players, as far as how the players are related to each other, I'm also interested to get into that conversation as well. Because I want to know as much as I can. But I felt like, the times that we have had Brandon on our show, the thing about him is that he wasn't afraid to answer the tough questions that we had. Again, without that history and without that knowledge, maybe the questions weren't as deep as they should have been. Um, but I've always looked at that ranch and said to myself, okay, the TV show, it's fun. There are elements of it I could laugh at. I made fun of it before anyone ever came on my show. And then the fact that they came on my show after that, it was like, okay, like I can respect these guys. Like I can mess with these guys. Let's see what's up. Let's ask them some questions. Let's have them on the show. And you know, the bridge hasn't been totally burned, and I'm not looking to burn bridges. But there are some very tough questions that I've asked, and instead of a clear, concise answer, I get a list of accomplishments. And it's not that those accomplishments aren't impressive. It's just, you know,
How long is that list, and who is their PR person?
oh man, it's not even a PR person, you know, it
That's pretty clear. Just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, it's not a PR person.
Inside voice.
It's, you know, like built relationships with these people, you know, you don't want to betray trust, but it's, you know, if there is a skinwalker, right? Which they've established it's real. The physicists and everyone on the ranch, like it has come home with people and has in some cases given them cancer. Why would you be doing a tour, a live tour with people that are constantly on that ranch? If that's a genuine fear, if that's a real thing, I don't have issues with trademarking it, calling it entertainment. Like, I watched Jack Brewer. Is Jack going to be here?
Wait, he's been popping in and out because I think he's
Okay,
having problems with his
with
internet.
his internet. Okay, I'm curious because I did get to see his interview with Thomas Winterton, and at first I'm like, geez, you know, like this feels corrupt. And I'd like to ask him more of the nuances of it. But my biggest thing was, well, the city of Roswell did this.
Yeah, but I think when Jack gets here, there are going to be some major differences. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think the city of Roswell is in the red, and I don't think the city of Roswell is really diverting what we have seen, you know, with the Uinta Basin and some of those people. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I think we could pull those numbers. I know that Jack actually has, and
yeah,
they're nowhere close. And I think the thing for me living here and living, you know, knowing some of these people, I mean, Utah is a small place. You know, you're
right.
in the business world, and and you're in politics and you're in you know, it's just small circles. And I think the thing that is really interesting is when you talk to people in that community, you know, very few people are truly making money on that conference. You go to the conference center, which there is no any record of money for the conference center. So where did that come from? That's not being accounted for in the numbers that we've seen through the grammar requests that we've done. Why are other people coming in and hosting big events, including people in the energy field? Why are they paying specific things, but yet these guys getting a free ride? Why is it, you know, so you go to the event, you pay your ticket, you're there for 3 days, you're there until, you know, evening, you go to a hotel that is a chain hotel.
Hmm.
You're not going out and supporting the community by shopping because you're so tired from being at an event. How much is it really stimulating tourism? And if you're claiming that it is stimulating tourism, then you need to be able to have the mechanisms in place where you are documenting exactly what businesses are profiting and how much. And it looks like from the
Yeah,
requests that we pulled and the information that we have, the only people that are profiting are people associated with Skinwalker Ranch, and the people that are paying taxes are the losers here. So if you've got, you know, as a business owner, if you've
mhm,
got an event going on and you've got 2 years of a loss, right? You're going to make sure that you make changes in your expenditures. You don't pay Travis Taylor $2,000 for a 20-minute speaking engagement where he's promoting absolute crap. You don't pay somebody, you know, you don't do those things. You have to make budget cuts. And so I think that those are things that people who are looking at it from the outside in and don't have kind of an understanding. And here's Jack, and hopefully we can get him on here. But you know, not having kind of that understanding of the way that works, the way government works, the way government corruption happens in these things, you could say, okay, yeah, of course, I'm going to believe what Brandon's saying. It's benefiting tourism. I'm going to believe what Tom Winterton, whose father is in politics, and they benefit from a lot of deals that go on in that area with the oil and gas industry. I mean, it's a very interesting place, and I think more than anyone on the planet, I'm the one who has actually done more research and probably know more about that area and more about the property and more about the goings-ons than anybody on the ranch. And I would definitely say I would invite any one of them to come on my show and talk to me. And they won't, because they know that I know the truth. So that's my thing. And I totally get, where you're coming from, where you don't want to burn bridges.
Mm.
I also understand that I'm one of the most trusting and forgiving people that wants to believe, and I know that you're the same way, Lou. You want to believe the best in people. And when somebody, reaches out and they're kind and welcoming and they're taking time to talk to you, you think, okay, cool. Wow. This person is really giving of his time. And I appreciate that. He's a, multi-billionaire and yada, yada, yada. And that's so cool. In the same breath, after years, when you hear unverified claims, and not only that, but you see people in the community getting hurt, or you have experienced things in your own life where these situations are not in the best interest of the community, the community in that area, or the subject of the study of UFOs, you say, wait a minute, no, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm worth more than this. And they've provided nothing. Bigelow, nothing. Grifters, they're still grifting, promoting absolute crap. And so I I get it, but I've been there and I've lived it. And I would say these are people that don't have integrity. And so bring it on. Come on the show. And I did appreciate, though, I will definitely say in Jackson chat, he's having internet problems, but I will
Okay.
say, I did appreciate that Tom did come on the show. We've reached out to all of them numerous
No, I
times
thought
to make sure.
I thought it was a killer interview, and it got me really thinking about it. Like, so when I think of, because the only thing really that I could bring to this conversation is the production aspect of it. Okay. So how many episodes was last season? Was it, I want to say 10 or 12 episodes, maybe 8. We'll just round up and say 10. Like, to do a production, even if it's a reality production, there are a lot of things that go into that are dependent on the economy to make it work. So from that aspect, I can see how that brings in dollars and attention to the state of Utah. From a politician's perspective, and thinking about American politicians, to me, they see an amazing opportunity. They see a television show that is interested in a part of the state that has nothing going on other than this spooky ranch. And it's those production companies are dependent on restaurants, delivery services, lighting, gaffing equipment, camera equipment, trucking, wardrobe. There are millions of things that go into that. So I think of it from that perspective. I don't have a dog in this race. I really
Right, right.
don't.
No, I totally, that's a great point. And
um
I want to just say, when I have been filming for different shows in specific areas, the talent that was brought in to do these things, that they're not local.
which talents are you talking
So I'm
about?
talking about everybody behind the scenes. So they're not
No,
Utah people.
no, that I understand, but the equipment, the trucking, the bedding, the hotel, the food, all of those things are local. The talent is never local. That's never local when it comes to TV production. So that from that aspect, I totally get. Um,
But again, it's like the conference. Like, how much revenue is truly brought in from that specific thing. I mean,
That's where the okay, so that's why I brought up Roswell earlier, because I feel like if it depends on how you're pitching it to these council members and these politicians, like, hey, look, we've got an opportunity here to once a year, and we could calendar this so every year it brings in something to this part of Utah. Okay, how we um calculate what that's worth, I have no clue how you would even start to do something like that. Is it worth it? Like, what are the numbers? What are the actual numbers? I would be shocked if it works in the favor of the taxpayer of Utah. I would be shocked because
and
I
it,
don't think the Phenomenacon is gonna bring in, like Roswell level kind of tourism. At least not yet, unless something crazy happens or they've got proof of something, or some lore. You know what I mean? Like right now, they've got the Skinwalker lore that they've got the Bigelow years that they're working on. They've got personal stories that they bring to the table. All of those things are great, but that's not so access to the ranch with a TV show, while unprecedented and thank you, it's not enough. Like we need something that is as well known to everyone as the world is a sphere.
well,
We
I
need
do
something like
think,
that.
it is important to note that Tom Winterton's father, Senator Winterton, did pass legislation to get pretty significant tax breaks for the
That's
film
interesting. Like
industry.
that's interesting. I didn't
Right.
know that. Like I didn't know that Thomas Winterton's dad is an active senator.
Hmm.
That's is he, well, I know Thomas Winterton is a registered Republican. Is his dad a Republican senator?
I don't think
That's
you could function in that part of the
right,
world, and yeah,
right. Which is whatever. That's
yeah. I mean,
it's
hey,
neither
I'm
here
a
nor there. It
registered
has nothing
Republican.
has nothing to do with
Yeah,
either thing,
so
right? Um, but yeah, that's not a great connection. That
no,
does
and
like again, like at the end of the day, if I had to take a guess, the 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 taxpayer is getting screwed. I don't know how. I don't have the smoking gun of it. That's why I wanted to talk to Jack. That's why I wanted Jack to be in here. But like, because I want to pick the brain of these connections, and if you could enlighten me on these, that would be wonderful as well.
absolutely.
But like, yeah, that doesn't bode well. You know what I mean? Like, and
It,
that's
I
a
mean, it
fair
doesn't. And
question,
I think that, for me to, like I said, I am, I will defend somebody. I am the defender of the
right?
underdog. I am a person that will, if somebody is being wronged, I will go out of my way to make myself uncomfortable to make sure that they're supported. And I don't, I come from a family of women who are community activists. My grandmother started the community councils in Utah. I'm very proud of that. My mom has done so much for Salt Lake. It's been incredible. And I, to me, I just when I dig into things, I'm not looking from a UFO lens. I'm looking from community activism. I'm looking from the perspective as a business owner. I'm looking from somebody who's in the community who is impacted by filming, where filming is taking place allegedly outside the property bounds, and people are being kept up all night by helicopters flying over their ranch. Their cattle are frightened. There are all sorts of stories that go on. And so if this was, and I have friends in the film industry as well, and they've worked on major productions, and they have all kind of said, wow, if we had these situations going on and the neighbors were affected in this particular way, we wouldn't be chasing them with drones. We wouldn't be coming after people who are trying to observe what's going on a private property. We wouldn't be coming after them. We'd be sending them fruit baskets. We'd be
Yeah, but
sending them,
but
and
I
we
no,
all,
I see what
so
you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but like people also said that about going to space. Like, you're fucking crazy. You think you could shoot a rocket into space? What are you, nuts? Like, some people are attracted to chasing those things with a drone or
You don't
whatever
chase
they're
people. You
they're
don't chase people with drones.
no, 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 no. You shouldn't chase
That's what
people.
I'm
Is that what
talking
you meant?
about.
Okay,
That's
I'm
what I'm
sorry. I
talking
thought you
about.
meant the phenomena on the
No,
ranch. So
no.
what do you mean by that? By
So
chasing people?
there are people that have lived that are in that area, and they have reported that if they're in the vicinity, that they're
Okay, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay, so
so
they're chased off with drones. That's
and people that
wild.
work on the ranch. But again, it's an interesting thing, and like I said, I wouldn't be so adamant about all of this if I hadn't have spent thousands of hours interviewing people for almost 10 years, people
So
in that area,
so
going to that area. I mean, it's pretty intense. And
what's your take on the ranch? Is there something spooky there, or is it is it all just make believe?
it's all a carefully crafted narrative, thanks to Colm Kelleher Bigelow and George Knapp. And after, I mean, people playing their roles, like I said, at the end of the day, there's never been a scientific study. If there has, show us that. You can't.
Yeah,
It's
right,
hiding behind smoke screens and, oh, when is the great Oz going to come out and appear on 60 Minutes and twiddle his mustache? And then when are we going to have another release from, this person dropping a bombshell? But there's a story. There's no verifiable evidence ever.
right.
And then we've got the Dino Beaver. We've got, I mean, just like it
Werewolves
just,
smoking cigarettes. I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
like seriously, and we all give, and I get it. Like you people are really great, especially if you're in journalism or you're an actor, you're in any, in business. It's like you should understand how to market yourself and sell a story. And that's what they've done, just like with Bob Lazar and George Knapp. There's never been, the more you dig into it, and the more you find how many questions there are about Lazar, as a figure in the community. It's like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. And why, when we stand up and say, okay, show us your research, like Stephen Greenstreet just did, he did the final episode of The Basement Office on Skinwalker Ranch. And I mean, he's asking Brandon, where have you done peer-reviewed research? Oh, no. What, I mean, what have you done? You've said from the beginning you would be open and transparent from when you bought the ranch. You haven't been. You said that this is a scientific endeavor. It hasn't been. And if we think of a handful of white guys, poking up, shining their lasers up into the sky is an actual, as a scientific process, then there's a problem. And I will say, and I know that I said this on past shows, but you have so much going on, you probably haven't heard this. But when I was at one of the conferences near Skinwalker Ranch in Vernal, I did have the opportunity to meet Travis Taylor, and I will say he's a great speaker. I mean, he's very engaging. There's a reason he's been acting, for a decade, because he is engaging and has a presence on camera. And I said to him, I said, you know what? Because you're telling us that people are dying of radiation poisoning, people are being affected by these hitchhikers, and they're getting cancer. What have you done as a scientist? What have you done as somebody who was working on the ranch to work with the community and local and federal authorities to make sure that people aren't hurt because of the claims, not because of the claims that you're making, but you're saying people, they're dangerous levels of ionizing radiation. What are you doing? And he said to me, the TV show. And so to me right there, that's all I need to know. There's
yeah.
nothing
No,
genuine about
I
it.
got I got an answer very similar to that. Uh, from a very popular radio journalist from up north. How much more specific I can get than that? But I was like, dude, like, what's the deal, man? Like, this rumor that somebody's spreading around about you that you called me concerned about. Like, why are you still pushing their bullshit. Man, I just got 3 new radio shows. We just got signed on to 3 new radio stations. Like what? Like it's like, come on, man. you know, I, that's like at this point, like I was really thinking about this. That Jack Brewer interview just shook me. It really got me thinking, because it's like at this point, like, the whole basis of the United States of America is people are allowed to believe whatever the hell they want. People are allowed to believe whatever the fuck they want.
Right.
And there's nothing we can do other than just put the information out there and let them make their own decision. The one thing that Stephen Greenstreet pointed out in that series, where I knew immediately, okay, this whole thing is bias, is I didn't know the entire team, with exception of Travis Taylor, was Mormon. They were in the Mormon church together. They all came from this, basically the same school system, the same schools. They were all buddies, most of them anyway, or they're former Mormons or current active Mormons. And that's not a knock on Mormonism. Like, I've got way more other issues with the religion other than that. But like, it's clearly not scientific. It's biased.
Right.
It's like if you took 5 pizza makers, and you put them in, a Chinese restaurant, and you said, give us your opinion on how to make this food. Like, how could they ever explain that to you? Like, I don't know, man. It's ridiculous. Like, at this point, it's like, if it's entertainment, fine. Call it entertainment, get your tax breaks just like every other goddamn film production company out there. Cool. Great. Just whatever you do, stop calling it science, because it's not. It's not. That's my biggest issue. I don't have the personal relationships or the baggage that comes with knowing everyone in that area and going through the things that you've gone through. I don't have that. But if I had to just dissect this to 2 things, like, it's entertainment. You trademarked it as entertainment. Right. Period. Full stop. If you want to trademark it as science, then add it to the table, man. Add it to the table and start writing some papers. Start inviting the CDC. I just looked up, there's 23 colleges, universities in the state of Utah. How come they're not coming to the ranch and doing studies there with the kids and trying to figure this shit out? Like, if it's so scientific, like if this was a woolly mammoth that they had found in Skinwalker Ranch, every university there would be dying to get their hands on it. And you think you'd welcome them in. And you haven't called the CDC, and I'm just trying to be logical here. If it's real, and Stephen Greenstreet makes the best point. I don't care who's asking this question. It doesn't matter where the question comes from. It's still a valid question. If this is a real pathogen that is able to jump from person to person, it has affected children, it has given cancer, it apparently has killed people, and it is a 100% undeniable scientific fact that it's real, fine. Let's get the CDC on this. Let's get somebody who actually understands pathogens and viruses.
Right.
And let's evacuate the area. Let's stop doing tours around the country, hugging people and taking photo ops with them. Like, how do you know you're not giving them the Skinwalker, Thomas Winterton? Like, that's a genuine question. I'm not trying to
hitchhiker.
Like, that's a genuine question.
That is a great question.
Your belief,
right? Don't be hugging on me at a conference if you're passing that hitchhiker syndrome.
It is shoving off. Your belief is so resolute, then you should easily be able to invite government officials, university scholars, scientists to do whatever the hell they wanted to on your ranch. Not just 4 Mormon guys and 1 physicist who also happens to be Mormon looking and hoarding data. I mean, Mick West asked for 1 megabyte of data, and they wouldn't give it to him. Every hoop you have to jump through to get Mick West was watching the TV show. He's like, oh yeah, I know that code. I know that software. I can easily help you guys go through that data. Give me whatever you got. Send it my way. Let me see what I can do with it. Nothing, over and over and over again. And Mick West, whether you like him, you don't like him, I don't know why you would or wouldn't, but if there's anything that he's done is that he's been respectful. He's been fair, as
Right.
fair as he could be with this wild topic. Like it's put up or shut up time, guys. Like
It really
I don't
is.
know about you, but for 80 now, this has gone on 80 years. Like, when are we gonna get the proof? Stop. If you don't have it, everything else that becomes before that doesn't matter. Roswell, back engineer, Bob Lazar, Jeremy Corbell, anything George Knapp has reported on, none of it has been good enough to change it to fact, not a hobby. It's a hobby. It's not a scientific study. You can't get a degree in it. There's no fucking job application for it. You do it because you're genuinely curious.
Right.
You genuinely just want to, like, either because you had something happen to you, and I'm not dismissing any of that stuff because I'm in the same boat here, people. But I'm not going to just let go of my reason because I've had a personal experience. I could easily misrepresented what I saw. Easily. I was 13. It's a 30-year-old memory. Like it's not proof. Never has been and never ever will be. And that goes the same for Brandon Fugel. That goes the same for Thomas Winterton. That goes the same for anyone. Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. Like, bring something to the table that changes the world. If you don't have it, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up.
Shut up. I need to write
Just
a song.
stop.
Shut up.
We could talk about it. We can, fantasize about it. We could theorize about it, but don't call yourself a science podcast and don't tout this stuff as fact. None of it is fact.
And you know what I've got to say, and thank you. This is excellent, wonderful. You're getting lots of props in chat. I want to just say, you're looking, over the past week and a half, we've had a lot of news about the leak from the Pentagon and how a 21-year-old leaked very critical information. And you look at the process that happened, people surrounding him. He is going to prison for a decade. And yet then you go back to Jeremy Corbell and say, okay, leaked document. You go back to George Knapp. Okay, another leaked document. Why aren't you in prison? There are laws. You can't do this. It's just so absolutely, crazy when you look back at this and the way, we get into it. And I as a layperson, it's like, you don't understand. I didn't understand the military. I didn't understand how classified, top secret, all of these things worked. I didn't, there are lots of learning curves that I've had with regard to all of this. And it's really easy for somebody to come in who is a fanciful grifter or a disinformation agent or ABCD, whatever, all of these people, and they can, throw in a couple things behind their name and say they've worked here for the DOD over here. And I've got to just give you this one example. There was a person who was very active with MUFON, and she had a bio to, light up the night. I mean, I happen to know one of the people that wrote her bio. So it's obviously very wordy and full of fluff. Great. But she was claiming that she was working for the DOD training special forces. And when you dug into her background, well, her husband was in the armed forces, and she was an aerobics instructor for small children on the bases where her husband was deployed. But that gave her the liberty because people didn't know any better. People believed it, and people didn't do any fact checking to create this story that was just like, what? I mean, it's like, come on, people, we have to be smarter than this. We can't just go into some freaking chat room and assume because people are saying, "Hey, I saw this benevolent space being. Please share your stories with me. Oh, let's go and, do have a little Jim Jones moment or go buy some Nikes and join a cult that could potentially, lead to some really serious, um,
A
life-changing
whole bunch of people
things."
killed themselves
But
with
you know what I
Nikes
mean?
on,
It's like,
drinking Kool-Aid.
but it is so easy to see how kind of like this cult like mentality can be. I mean, it is, that's a backbone, I believe, of ufology. And because there's so many things, we're all looking for. I mean, I got into this because i I've had experiences. I i think that they're, where we are, this isn't a black and white world. And I would like to know, I would like to learn more and open my horizons and things. And it has made me sad and angry over the years to watch really good human beings that have had experiences, whether real or whether they're having, mental issues, but try to reach out to people that are the top in the field. I use that term loosely, for help and answers, and instead become indoctrinated into this kind of cult where we're going to meet behind the scenes, and I'm going to tell you that I really like you, and whoa buddy, you are in the military, you're former military, but I want to use you to go out there and form a bully pulpit on my behalf. And so there's some really, you know what I mean, there's some real dangerous things that can happen in this subject, and I'm sure you've kind of seen some of that as well.
Well, my biggest concern is that our representatives and our journalistic pillars are not doing anyone any justice by inferring these things and potentially not delivering again. In this age, as in an age of a lot of misinformation, you would figure lawmakers would want to curb that, but instead they're sort of throwing fuel on the fire in a lot of ways, whether it be local government like we've seen in Utah, or whether it be senators and congressmen, holding hearings that have hit in my opinion, big brick wall. And yeah, I'm happy I got out when I did. It's a bummer, but at the same time, like, I've always said, like, if we've helped make America a little safer, if we've made another issue, brought light to it, I think that's a win. If a lot of lawmakers were not aware of Chinese air balloons spying on our nuclear facilities, and now they are because of this, fine. But now that everyone's aware, let's just stop with the game and tell everyone, okay, look, this is, and they did. Senator Kirkpatrick said they found no evidence of any alien life or anything like that. And I understand. I really do understand personal experiences. I genuinely get it. But we can't let those experiences define our life. And we can't let it destroy our reason, as disappointing as that may sound, or even offensive. I apologize. It's not coming from a mean place or a place of lack of understanding, because I genuinely get it. I want answers just as bad as the next person. But there are other really wonderful aspects of life, as weird as it is, as wild as it is, that you should really take the time to enjoy. It's important. That's important too. Like getting away from this, and getting away even from your experience. Like, trauma is real, and I believe traumatic experiences have happened. But talking about this all the time and diving into these cons and arguing these points, like it's not healthy. It's not healthy. Everyone should try and take a break, even if that's only for a round of golf. Do it. It's worth it. Trust me. You're gonna feel a lot better. You're gonna be a better person for it. And on some level, you'll be able to at least try and come to terms with it. Like, haven't fully come to terms with my experience either, but what am I gonna do?
Well, I mean, it is
What am I gonna
interesting
do?
because it does become like, I mean, for me, I mean, it became, I mean, I dove into this like I do with art or music, like I do anything that's my passion. I dive into it like, yeah, baby, I'm going for it. And so, but it does, especially this topic, it is very toxic. If this
Yeah,
is a
no, I mean, it
constant
fires
thing.
us up. I mean, it fires us up. Like, it pisses me off that people are taking tax breaks and I'm sitting over here like a schmuck being a, hardworking blue collar citizen. Like, shame on me. Like it sucks that nepotism opens a lot of doors for you. But I'm not going to sit here and yell about it for 20 shows. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll yell about it once. I'm upset. It doesn't feel good. Like, I don't like to lose those relationships, and maybe one day we'll reconcile. I mean, look at how our relationship started, and look at where we're at now. Like, things change, and maybe I get perspective to something that I didn't have before. According to Brandon Fugel, this season of Skinwalker Ranch is gonna blow your fucking mind, and you're gonna have to go to therapy because it's gonna be a game changer. Well, okay, cool.
Well, I
We've
could tell
got
you
10 episodes.
yeah, if I see Bat Boy
you know?
flying in his helicopter one more time, I might have to go to therapy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, look, a
God,
bad
yeah, hello.
helicopter, I would
I
fly
mean,
it
I think they
everywhere
need
too.
to like actually they should be a sponsor for Underoos. Let's bring
Underoos.
Underoos back and
Yeah.
let's have the cast like I'm next time I go to a conference, I'm gonna take my little pair of Superman Batboy Underoos and have them sign them.
Yeah.
You're probably too young to even remember what Underoos are.
No, no, no. I remember they just like especially when you said Batman and Superman, they're just underwear.
Yeah.
I had a pair, I'm sure. Batman for sure.
Sure I did too.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can promise you it's not Utah's not the only place that this is happening.
Oh no.
It's
No, it's
I feel like it's in a way it's like legal. It's almost legalized. I don't want to label it corruption, but it feels like that a little bit.
yeah, absolutely. And I want to just
And legalized nepotism. How about that?
yeah, or legalize something. I want to just ask really quick because UFO John Doe asked a question
Yeah.
for you. In your opinion, what is Fugel's end game?
I think I don't think there's an end game. I don't think I I have gotten to know him a little bit. I've had a lot of personal conversations with him. I think it's a great way to employ his friends and keep him around. I really do. And it's a great way to bring income and attention to a state that he loves. That's what I think it is at its core. I don't know, Erica, and this is such a personal spot to go into, but I am curious. Like, does this does Brandon Fugel and this new team have any connection to the previous team that you had, a toxic, abusive behavior, applied to you, I guess is the most gentle way I could say. But you know what I'm saying? Like, do they have any connections to each other
I
or
would say
is
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
in what way?
especially
Can you enlighten me?
yeah, absolutely. I think, the Joe Firmage story. Joe was a multi-millionaire here, very talented young man that had a lot of money at a young age and is a devout Mormon. And he and Brandon and Hal Putoff and the Kit Green and the usual suspects got involved in this little gyroscope where they brought in investors. Carl Sagan's widow allegedly was one of the investors. Dan Marriott from the Marriott hotel chains, people like that came in and invested millions of dollars into this and it went nowhere. I think all of us who have had private conversations with some of these people have mentioned this, but they've given their various spins on what happened and thrown Firmage under the bus. Whether that's valid or not, who knows? But the relationships were there way back in 2010, 11, 12 with Bigelow, with Kit Green, with the same people that were grifting them are grifting now. So
Mm. What
absolutely.
do you what do you think about my assessment of it as far as like what I think the not the core of it, but just sort of the idea of, yeah, this ranch is a great opportunity to do exactly what I just said, employ my buddies, make sure they have a killer job that's not too hard. They're on TV, they can go outside of this television show and do tours and get paid for that. And again, to bring eyeballs to Utah. Am I way off when I think that's sort of the motivations behind this?
You know what I would say, if that's the motivation, then set yourself up in the light that, hey, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to go on the record and not only live and die on the cross that this is real and I've got the evidence to prove it and people are dying because of this effect. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it open and I'm going to say, hey, everybody's having a good time. I'm not going to, go out there. And I think this is, I go back to, there was a really poignant and horrific story about a fellow in Colorado who was younger, in his early 20s, Christian Glass. And he was suffering from a pretty severe mental uh, kind of a break. And he had called the police officers, or the police, his car had some problems, and he was convinced that there was a shape shifting skinwalker around him. And you can go to YouTube and see the body camera footage and hear his 911 calls. And he was terrified about this. And eventually the police come in and open fire on him and kill him when he was having a mental break. And so to me, when you've got a situation like this, it's not just fun and games. You're telling people this is real. You're telling people are dying of cancer. You're telling people things that can't be verified. This is dark. This isn't okay. So I don't think it's okay to, and I would never in a million years bring my buddies in to profit on something that can be that detrimental to another person's mental health. It wouldn't happen. There's no excuse for that, in
Yeah.
my opinion. So, and I've seen it. I've seen, like I said, I've interviewed the people around the ranch for many, many years. I've seen, what happens, and that's not okay. It's all
What
great to
can,
make money.
what has happened to the people around the ranch because of this lore?
So they have become convinced that they are being terrorized by demons. They're being terrorized by skinwalkers. They're being terrorized, or they are chosen. I mean, just the
How
usual.
many how many individuals would you say are in the area that believe that or something similar that you've met?
I would say that's a great question. I would say maybe there are, I would say less than a fourth of the population around the ranch believes in
What's the
this.
population? What's the
So
population around the
I will
ranch?
look it up. It's
Yeah.
you've got Vernal and Roosevelt, but I mean you've got, I mean, I think that the majority of the people that live around there are working in the oil and gas industry.
Right.
I mean, they're working the land. These are people that don't want to be bothered with this kind of stuff. But there are people that get wrapped up and involved in this, and that can really have detrimental, effects. And I don't think, for me, I don't, it's like, okay, this could be something, but I'm not going to lead anybody down a road that this is what's happening. And you're not, and I've seen this too, you've got people involved with the ranch who are finding people in Facebook groups who are saying, "Hey, I've had this experience," and then these people are being surrounded and told that they're having religious experiences, psychic gifts have been
Right.
given to them. You
But
know, so
so then the question is, what do we do? Like, because the original sort of thing of like, people have a right to believe whatever they want, and if they, especially if they have bought it hook, line, and sinker, there's almost nothing you can say to pull them out of it, no matter what the topic is, whether it be Scientology, whether it be ufology, whether it be any ology that you want to throw in there. Like, it's tough to get people once they are, their belief has turned into a conviction. It's almost impossible to bring it back.
but then do we just say, well, screw it? We've got a group of white
I think
supremacists,
no,
in that
I
are.
think I think you make people aware of it as best you can, and let them digest the information or not. Unfortunately, I feel like it's almost like pissing in the wind, to use that analogy. It feels that way a lot, especially for me, like coming from what happened to me. Like a lot of my efforts now are exactly that, trying to snap people out of a rabbit hole. Like, it's
But I
about
think
just adding a little more common sense to the conversation.
I would say that any political activist that has spent time either advocating for women's rights or um, advocating for equality. I would say that anybody that gives their life to pursuing something that noble and a greater purpose, they would all say, well, I mean, they get to that point where they could say, why am I doing this? Why am I going into a community and trying to mitigate traffic concerns or do all of these things? It's
Yeah,
like
no,
pissing in the
from
wind.
from
And so
from your standpoint, because you live in the area, I do not. So I understand that from your perspective, especially. You've got more say than anybody in this, as far as I'm concerned. But I just think I, I, y- it's not. I'm not saying to quit. I'm saying to keep doing what you're doing. Just don't let it turn in. Have your moments of venting, but don't let the vent turn into then just a continuous anger. It's not gonna. It doesn't do anybody any favors. It's like, look, I've done my best. Just like being able to look in the mirror and say, okay, I've done my best. I've warned as many people as I've said what I've had to say, and all right, let if people can't see the patterns of this by now, what more can I do? What more can you do?
I think, though, it's, convincing people, showing people, it's not like a one-off thing. You can't just say, oh, I did this story about it, because you know how the news cycle is. It's like people forget things that happened 20 minutes ago. This is like you are continuing to do research and then promoting more, putting more on the table, using, like I know Jack and I have been very lucky, but we've also worked really hard to get mainstream media coverage for the things that we have done, our research about the ranch in that area. And so it takes time, and being an advocate, which in my opinion isn't just for people in that area, it's
Right.
people in the subject who don't deserve to be lied to or marginalized or taken advantage of. Then that's my thing. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to stop doing that, because that's not who I am. But I also, I understand your point. There does, like, are you pissing in the wind? Yada, yada, yada. I don't know. I mean, you can look at people who have great media careers who continually harp on fake news, make a
No,
lot of
no,
money doing it.
you make an excellent point. I mean, stand corrected. Like, I I just don't. I feel like you said it yourself, right? The UFO subject is very difficult to get eyes on already, to get serious eyes on. And now you're asking that same entity to pay attention to the people that found out that's a lie and that there's a grift going on. And oh, also there's racists all over the place. Like, they're going to go, Yeah, we kind of figured that. I think. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think. I mean, it's just like, how do you put levels on this, right? Like, I don't think it's as harmful as, or more harmful than Scientology.
Yeah, that's definitely, now how can you, yeah, I
Like,
mean, but,
I,
but
it's just like, what do we, what do people? There's only so much attention span, Like, I think there's a place to be right here on both sides of it. I think constantly, because activism is not one day, it's not one march, it's constant. And from that aspect, I totally understand, and that is necessary to if there's going to be a constant grift, there's got to be a constant defense of that grift. So from that aspect, I'll always be here for that. I'll always question the the narrative, that for sure. I'm with you 100%. I think it's just, once this show's over and this is clicked off, go back. Like, it's good to get away from it, and I think that's important. I think that's more important than trying to wake up a section of humanity that in a lot of cases they don't want to be woken up. In a lot of ways, this fantasy is therapy for them, for whatever that may be. Am I
yeah,
wrong? Am I crazy? Am I saying something offensive? I don't want
you
to
know what,
offend you. Let's just. I guess if I'm saying stuff that's offensive, please let me know,
no,
because
no, no.
I
I
don't
think,
want
I
to.
mean,
I don't want
you're
to come
raising
off that way.
some great points. I think belief is a very powerful thing. That's why wars have been started. That's why you have, lots of, things with. I mean, yeah,
I
belief is
think
a
from a
powerful thing, and people
Scrooge.
at the end of the day want that. They need that in a sense, and so I get that, but because somebody believes that a black person needs to be hung by a rope on a tree or doesn't deserve a place
Yeah,
in politics.
but that's not the same.
It is the
That's not the
way.
same as
How is
this.
it, this is
It's
you have got
not. It's
belief.
not.
Well, no, because you've got people that believe things, and you're saying that we should, if you're believing in some of these things that can and have led down a pathway where you're believing conspiracies, where you're
But
believing things, and you're picking up a gun and you're going to go, kill somebody because you're believing in a conspiracy theory that
right, right,
has
right, right.
backing. You know what I'm saying?
But no, I don't,
Okay.
because a conspiracy theory, the UFO conspiracy theory has not killed as many Americans or Africans as the belief in slavery. Like, they're two totally
But
different
the
beliefs. Are
problem,
they both harmful?
but the
Absolutely,
But the
but
problem is,
they're
but
not
no,
the same.
there's a problem though, and there have been many things that have been written and studied about this topic where you've got different factions of people who are forming a group, and they can be manipulated, and as a result, white supremacists and people that have a very nefarious agenda can go in and manipulate that mindset. There's plenty of stuff that has been documented about that, and that's a very real thing, and I have seen that type of kind of people going down that rabbit hole in the UFO subject. And for me, it's not okay. There's more to this than a
I'm not saying,
UFO.
look, I'm not trying to excuse it or justify it. Let's be 100% clear. But are they as destructive to society? Like, a few people going down a few hundred people, a few thousand people going down a UFO rabbit hole and getting caught up, like, say, a Paul Benowitz.
So is
As terrible as that would be, I do not condone it whatsoever. It's nothing compared to the 500 years of.
so what about QAnon?
What about QAnon? That's been around for 2 years, 3 years.
Well, QAnon is in one form or another, it's been around for a lot longer, but QAnon
I
has
think.
had, I mean, it's based in conspiracy theories. There's the UFO element, and there's the
Yeah.
element of the people from
Well,
coast to
QAnon
coast.
started Pizzagate with the whole Hillary Clinton, and somebody
Yeah,
died because of that, right? So I
many.
understand the destructiveness of it. I 100% understand the urgency to be more clear with the information that you're sharing, either as a lawmaker or as even a political leader or a state leader or a businessman. Like, I think you should be as clear and concise with the things that you're doing. And when they're not being clear and concise, I understand the frustration and the anger with that. And I can understand that it's wrong. And I can understand that some people, in some cases, have even lost their life. And that's despicable. It's horrible. And we don't want to lead people down that kind of hole. Of course not. But to, again, like, to compare it like on the scale of human suffering, like, it doesn't even show up on the scale. It doesn't. As harsh as that may sound, as dismissive as that may sound, it's not. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm not trying to be harsh, but it does not even come close to the suffering of or the daily experience of an African American male in the inner city. It doesn't.
But when you have
I think there's
leaders
but no, I think there's
and
but
you
nothing.
have,
Like,
well, there absolutely is, because you got, I mean, look at the brown shirts. Look at what happened with Nazi Germany. Look at how that started as a community,
I understand what you're saying.
movement to help. It's the
Look,
average guy, and how this can metastasize. And we've seen
did
the QAnon
metastasize.
cult.
It metastasized into January 6th. That's what it metastasized itself into. And that has been squashed and demolished. And for, I mean, there'll always be an element of that in the United States of America. And there should always be a defense to that kind of thinking in the United States of America. I'm not saying it's not significant, but if you call that an insurrection, you haven't seen an insurrection in Iraq. You haven't seen an insurrection in South America or Venezuela. You haven't seen an insurrection in Cuba, where my family's from. Like, you want to talk about insurrections, like actually taking over the government. Go talk to people from those places and ask them about January 6th. Was nothing compared to governments or places like that. Is it despicable? Absolutely. Is it horrible? Yes. But how many of those people that took over the Capitol were UFO enthusiasts? Let's say all of them. Let's say all of them. Okay. That's 0.0001% of the country. And even if it represented a larger portion of how Americans think, it wouldn't even add up to 1%. It wouldn't. There's, like, hoarding is more of a mental illness, I think, than people falling into a ufology hoard. Like, I don't think they're comparable. I understand why it makes you angry. I understand why it's unjustified, but to compare
I
those,
think I think an
yeah,
assault to our democracy is absolutely unjustified. And I will say that when you've got programming like Coast to Coast that for years have promoted people like Alex Jones, have promoted people like Michael Flynn, have promoted, here we're going to talk about UFOs, we're going to talk about Bigfoot, and then we're going to talk about ways that you can overthrow your government. Roger Stone. I mean, give me
right.
a
But
break. I
we
have a
have,
friend who is an award-winning journalist who puts, you know, that person's life in danger, who was at the insurrection, who has followed these communities around, and having been to multiple places in the world with other journalists, has said that what happened at the Capitol that day was every bit as alarming as places that they have been in other parts of the world. So to dismiss what happened
I'm
on
not
January
dismissing it.
6th, but I mean,
Let's be
but
clear. I'm not
but you're
dismissing it.
saying though that
It's,
it
but
was.
is it alarming? Yes. Is it concerning? Yes. Should we pay attention to it? Yes. Have the people that have done it been arrested? Absolutely. It's not like the guy with the bullhorns is leading a militia somewhere, against the government. Like, he's been arrested, he's gone to jail. Everybody's been prosecuted for the most part that has taken part in that insurrection. I don't look. I think where we disagree is how much genuine influence this has. I maybe I'm wrong, and I can concede maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe it's way more alarming than I'm considering. But I'm just saying from an immigrant perspective, from a family that escaped things like that, they look at that and they go, that's just a bunch of fucking idiots. And turns out that a lot of them are just a bunch of fucking idiots that got riled up by a president that will never face any sort of punishment for doing that. And that's concerning, because if the president says smarter and a lot slicker in his presentation, especially when it comes to a Twitter, then yes, I agree with you. That's a dangerous place. And is the country in a position where that could happen? Absolutely. Um, but as Thomas Jefferson, I believe, said, the people deserve the government it invests in, or something along those lines. Like, if you don't vote, if you don't challenge your elected representatives, if the people of Utah are not getting behind you, empires, they come, they go, and the American empire, I hope to God never is the same thing. But if people want this kind of change, they have to vote for it. They have to engage with their government. And that's what part of the Big Phone Home was all about, showing people how to contact a senator or lawmaker if you're upset about something, not just about UFOs, whatever you want. Whatever you want. I don't think the UFO conspiracy rabbit hole is anywhere as destructive or anywhere as impactful or anywhere as historically significant as slavery.
But there are aspects to different communities that can be manipulated and that are being manipulated by subversive groups.
Agreed.
So
Agreed. And guess who knows about all of those groups? The NSA, the FBI, the CIA, the DIA. They know about all of them. They listen to everyone's phone calls. It's just legally, are they allowed to arrest them? Are they allowed to do anything? I mean, as citizens, as people who care about their communities, we can reach out to, news organizations. We could do all the research. We could try our best, which I believe you're doing, which I believe I tried to do. On many other things other than UFOs. But it's like, what more could we do other than what we've done? We've made people as aware as we possibly can do. We thank God for you guys, like you and Jack Brewer, getting the details of those contracts with Thomas Winterton and the rest of the team and how much they're getting paid out at these phenomena cons and the contracts, how they're great questions. These are all things that need to be done, and you're paving the path. But that's a lonely path, man. Not a lot of people want to do that. And
the people I want to hang out with do.
Yeah, for sure.
People that have integrity,
awesome.
that want to get off their ass and make this place a better place and make my community safer and make my country stronger, then those are the people I want to hang out with. So, it could be lonely, but I don't know. I've met some pretty amazing people that want to do that. And that's how, that's what being an activist is. And when I look at, unfortunately going to some of these conferences and seeing that they are promoting a political message, they are promoting, you go back and I've got thousands of magazines here that date back from the late 40s on, and they're all promoting a specific message. Oh my God, the FEMA camps, they're going to come take our guns away. Oh my God, this is going to happen. This has been a long-standing message in the UFO conspiracy theory world. And so it isn't just an idle thing. There are people that are really, that can easily be led down extremist rabbit holes. And to me, I think that's an important subject to talk about. And
I agree. That's why I'm telling people, if they get in front of a senator, to please ask them why they keep inferring that these are aliens from another planet visiting us, because this community is prone to believe things like Pizzagate, to believe that the female presidential nominee eats children and sucks on their blood to stay young. And somebody got killed at a pizza shop because they thought it was happening there. Like, and then you dive into the killer's past, and he's a huge UFO nut. Like he dove deep into a whole bunch of conspiracy theories. He was heavy into Alex Jones. He was heavy into Fox News. He was heavy into a lot of hard right wing things. Those people exist. I don't. I think we should bring people's attention to it. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is here, because I'm just as frustrated as you are. I feel like and when I say pissing in the wind, I don't mean it as you're wasting your time. It's just like I'm fucking yelling in this room, and everybody's just like, nah, man, give me the mystery. Give me the fucking spooky stuff at Skinwalker Ranch. Give
You
me
know what, though? I will say that
I don't know
people
what
have
to do.
listened. And I mean, through my journey and through me continually hammering these points home and digging in and not just saying one story, but getting more information as every day goes on and presenting that, more and more people are seeing the truth. I have done that. That has been me. That has been my blood, sweat, and
Yeah.
tears, and my tenacity to go after this and to make sure that this message is spreading, that the truth is spreading. And for me, as I have gone deeper into this, I make sure that when I'm doing my research, I'm not necessarily doing any research in the subject of UFOs, but I'm looking at things like Strategic Implications of American Millennialism, a monograph by Major Brian Stuckert from the U.S. Army that talks about the dangers of some of these things. And I would definitely recommend reading this, or reading something like The Atlantic, The Making of American
I mean,
Nazi, and looking at.
if you're trying to convince me that American exceptionalism is dying, I agree with you. I agree with you, and it's dying. It's dying. Yeah, I agree with you. It's
But I mean,
dying,
there's
and we're gonna. I mean, look, I've especially like having that whole last year happen, right? And then I end the show, and I would get people that would message me. I'll tell you, like, I was explaining this to my brother, and he's like, "Dude, you don't sound happy." And I'm like, I don't feel happy. I feel responsible. I feel responsible in a lot of ways, because my show for a while was helping people go down this rabbit hole further, right? And I thought that the people I was speaking with were being genuine with me, and they were not. And then I had this strong urge to help anyone I could get out of this rabbit hole, get out of this thing that I helped sort of create and promote. Even when I did my show, I did my best to try to keep my personal beliefs out of it. But when I ended the show and the months following it, I learned, and through therapy, I learned, my belief system was a lot bigger than I thought. I wasn't being as biased or unbiased as I thought I was. I had a strong belief system, and I would defend it almost at any cost, no matter how many times I read things. I had to see it for myself. I had to see the red flags. I had to experience the manipulation that you had to experience, right? So, I felt obligated to tell the world, hey, be careful. Don't do what I did. Come out of this rabbit hole, trying to shake them awake. And some people would write to me and say, man, thank you so much. I would watch your show. You guys were like the most grounded, right? And then I saw what happened, and I'm like, I feel so bad for you. I got so many messages like that. And I'm telling my brother this exact thing, how obligated I feel. And he's like, dude, you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them anything. You've tried your best. And that's where I'm at. It's not that I don't think it's valid or justifiable, or even it's worthy of pursuit. and it's an honorable pursuit. And when I say it's a lonely pursuit, I don't mean personally. I mean it's like a lot of people don't have the fucking gumption, the tenacity, or really the motivation to just keep on doing it. And eventually you're going to crack and it's going to break and it's going to be everything you wanted it to be. Um but keep in mind, you don't owe anybody a thing. You're doing your best, and that's all you could do. And that's what the new version of my show, even though I'm doing games and movie reviews every once in a while, even though I've been working and auditioning like crazy, I haven't been really doing that. And I've been editing. My new pieces they make me feel really good because I feel like I am helping people. People that do watch it are like, shit, didn't know that. Thank you. And I get a kick out of that. But once they're done watching my videos, I'm not gonna stop them from going to the Nazi chat room and sharing my video. Like if they wanted to do that, like I just like shit, dude. Like I'm trying to put the best information out there I can and be as straightforward as I can with people, but I don't owe them anything. I don't owe them anything. And take care of your own mental health and personal health. And then fight for other people. Take care of your family, take care of yourself, and then fight for other people if you've got the energy to do it. And if you do, God bless you. We need more of you. We need more of you. Because the country needs it. It's in a very vicarious position right now. Like, because all it's going to take, the money is just flowing into politics. Money talks, and I think again, that's what Brandon is doing. He sees a business opportunity. He's like, hey, let's make a paranormal Disneyland here in Utah, or let's attempt it, and let's get tax dollars to do it. And hey, yeah, you guys, make the contracts and grease the wheels and do the phenomenicons, and let's shoot the TV show and all that stuff. Like, I think it's a very, it's not as innocent as that. It's a like a Scrooge McDuck. It's a very harsh, kind of gross business move because you're playing on people's beliefs. You're playing on people's belief system and their willingness to pay for the information that is just not even, it's nothing. It's not even real, like, extra information. It's, like, you go to the website, there's nothing there for you, even if you pay the paywall. The TV show, we've dissected every episode on my channel, and it has its moments. It's funny, but I mean, like, I've got very little interest in watching this season. I'm gonna do it just because at this point I have to. Like, I have to, right? But I think this will be my last season of Skinwalker Ranch. I don't think I'll be watching after this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I've got some. I mean, it is kind of funny, actually. I think it should be probably nominated as a comedy, because it really, there's some good shtick there. I mean,
There is.
bunch
They play characters.
I mean,
There's so many characters, and let me tell you,
and they're
I mean,
all
I'm
very
sure.
shallow characters. I mean,
Yeah,
there
well,
needs to be a little work on the
it's
the
it's
depth.
reality TV. It's reality TV. Like,
That's questionable.
what's
It's
what's the most? Yeah, well, that's what it's labeled. Like,
right.
so
Yeah,
let's
it
just
does
call it
remind me
what
of,
it is.
yeah.
If they want to call it reality TV, fine. If it's a manufactured reality, yeah, like, it wouldn't be the first TV show in history to do it. I mean, look at the Ghost Channel. Like, it's got a whole channel, I think.
But I prefer looking at Zach Bagans' biceps to,
Okay, who's
Travis
Zach?
Taylor's
Who's Zach
skinny times.
Who's Zach
Zach
Bagan?
Bagans is the guy with the big, from Ghost Adventures. I've got a
Okay,
picture
okay,
of me standing next to him back when I was lifting weights a lot.
okay,
Actually,
yeah.
my biceps were bigger than his. I'm just saying.
Yeah, shit, man. Look, I'm a big fan of and admirer of biceps anytime they come around, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty overwhelming. Mostly that mine were bigger, but
Yeah. No,
he was
well,
very
I
proud of
mean,
his.
you're a yoga queen.
But I mean, it is interesting, and I mean, that does, I mean, there are questions about quote unquote reality TV, how much is scripted, what kind of a, I mean,
Well,
and I,
anytime Travis Taylor is looking in the camera, and telling you what's happening as you're seeing it, all of that is scripted. All
You
of it.
know, and I will say
All
it
of
is really interesting here too, because we have a governor, Governor Spencer Cox, who has worked in conjunction with specific people on the Economic Advisory Board, as has Governor Gary Herbert, our former governor, who was on the Skinwalker show, interestingly enough, pretending like he actually knew what he was talking about when it comes to the phenomena.
it.
But
Right.
here you've got Spencer Cox, who's just passed legislation, or it was behind uh, signing something into play where teenagers have to have the approval of parents to go on any social media account, because social media is detrimental to their mental well-being. And yet here we can have a show like Skinwalker Ranch where the characters are saying this is real, there is something dangerous, and yet we're, we're not supposed to be looking at that and saying, wait a minute, okay, here, Governor Cox, you're saying this and you're protecting our teenagers, but you're not protecting them from a show that is detrimental to people's mental health and promoting false narratives. So where's the line? Where do we draw the line in some of these things? It's like we want to make sure that we are monitoring people's social media and we're, filtering the content, but
But
where does this come into play? And where do people that are promoting things that are not factually based, where does that come into play? And I totally get your point earlier where, hey, we're in business. You don't make millions and millions of dollars by being a nice person. Okay, great. But sometimes you do. And sometimes you do have integrity in business dealings. And sometimes you do have integrity, when you're dealing with the community.
yeah,
That does happen.
I'm not saying a morally just business person doesn't exist. I never said that. Like I said it's a Scrooge McDuck move. Like it's a Scrooge McDuck move to do something like that. And I agree with what you're saying. Um I just think on the list of priorities, I think it's a window where people could take advantage, just like religion, and for the most part it gets ignored because it's like I think for a majority of people, they look at victims of this and they go, "What do you want me to do, buddy?" Like, like you got suckered. I'm sorry. I think I'm not saying that's my perspective. I'm saying I think a majority of people don't. Unfortunately, they don't care. There's so much corruption. There's so many other things going on, and to go back to your comment of like we have to monitor social media posts and we have to monitor television shows, like who's going to do this monitoring? Who does this filtering?
Ask
um
Governor Cox. He seems to have that down.
what is he filtering out other
So they've just passed legislation that will make, if you're underage, you have to have a parent consent for you to get on social media apps.
okay, got it, right, you had said that. Yeah, that's weird. That's a
So I
weird,
mean,
very
it,
very sort of Orwellian sort of thing. Yeah, it doesn't shock me that that law just passed in Utah. It doesn't shock me. Like when I went to Utah, the bar had a wall in front of it because they didn't want kids seeing
yeah, the,
bartenders mix
the
drinks.
Zion Curtain is
It's
what
a
that was
weird,
called.
it's a weird little state like that. So, like, I just don't think.
But it's also, interestingly enough, one of the epicenters of technology and some of these new startup companies that are literally mining people's personal data. And, we talk about personal liberties and civil liberties. And yet here we are pretending like we're all about your civil liberty, and yet we're mining your data to learn how to manipulate you. It's fascinating. And I'm going
I
down a
am.
different rabbit hole, but it is quite interesting.
I'm a. I used to be a. I want to say I'm used to because I'm still very much lean libertarian. I'm a very much like, your privacy is your privacy. What you do in your own home is up. It's your business. As short of abusing kids or elderly people or your wife or loved one, vice versa. It's That's not acceptable. Anything pretty much outside of that, if it's your business, do whatever you want. Um, and I think that goes for, again, for belief systems, and it's the the idea of having our privacy anymore, I think, is gone. It's gone, and I don't think we're ever going to get it back. Everything's digitized, and I think we're at a point of no return when it comes to that kind of stuff. And in the future, all of your information will be an eye scan, you know, like, yeah, I think it'll be very Minority Reportish, where it's, I mean, look at the Emirates. In the Emirates, if you're everything you do is monitored by a chip in your wallet. And if you're speeding, it knows, and it just writes and mails you the ticket. There's no police there. It's everything is, every single offense is monitored and ticketed. And it's like, I think we're eventually gonna, like, it seems like that's where it's going. I mean, they've been mining our data like that for a long time now, for a long, long time, and now it's just leaking. It's just being Now just private companies are using it for their advantage as far as promoting their wares. You know,
Right, and which is really interesting that, it's such that, there is a big hub here in the area that Brandon allegedly developed. There's a huge tech hub, and there have been a lot of different startup companies. Interestingly enough, some of the startup companies who got money from COVID funding to come out of nowhere and create companies that are completely gone when people that are dying of COVID actually could have used those funds. But it's they're mining personal data, and for some reason, which I don't understand, the leadership of our state doesn't have our civil liberties in mind with our protection of
mm,
privacy, which is it is very strange to see how we can be for for personal privacy, we can be for all of these liberties that deserve to be protected, and yet we can turn around and sell that to the highest bidders. It's very strange, and it is a very
no, it's
Orwellian world we're living in. And I
yeah,
remember, gosh, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was at the airport, and I was maybe 5 feet away from scanning my ticket, and it was like, oh, facial recognition, we've got you, you can go through. And that was a very kind of a one of those moments where you just think, oh, wow,
you're in the system. You're
yeah.
in the system, and that's, like, that you're not getting that back. That's and the thing is I think the privatization of it is just getting people more used to that idea, more used to that fact that from now on, for the rest of the time, advertisers will be able to use every single click and every single eyeball look as data as to what you're clicking and what you're purchasing. Yeah, it's nefarious and awful.
Well, and it's
It's
interesting, and I
one of
just
those growing pains of technology.
when
Like,
it's
how do we keep privacy with that kind of stuff?
I guess we do a better job, and I'm guilty of this, of looking when I'm agreeing to sign off on everything. And Angels Are Life mentions the Ring door camera technology, which
Mm.
is very interesting. We're all upset about TikTok, and yet here we've got Ring, which is manufactured in China, and
Yeah,
it's like, how many ways, or the Nest, how many ways can you have your data mined and then sign your rights over to third party vendors?
I think the end game is eventually that we China is obviously buying assets over here, investing their technologies into places like Ring and a whole bunch of other different places that we're not even thinking about besides TikTok. And I think the thing with TikTok is that it influences a whole generation of young people um to think in a way where Chinese political influence can be injected into those kinds of videos and sort of deteriorate the American exceptionalism that I was talking about. Another way to just deteriorate that through TikTok and other companies and other things like that. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. I think it's eventually going to lead to a one world sort of like China owns part of America, America owes part of China, just because we're so indebted to them. Like our economies are kind of dependent on each other at this point. Now it's just like, okay, can we follow the rules that would make all of this sort of coherent and more efficient, and maybe we can get because the thing with, especially when it comes to world pollution, like it's not the United States and Canada and the European countries that are, and Australia, places like this, that are adding to the carbon monoxide sort of poisoning of the world. It's the underdeveloped countries, the places that are run, like China specifically, like, for example, the boats that come into Long Beach, the boats, all of them used to obviously have the same engines and stuff like that, the ships, and it was causing lung cancer in Long Beach. And the government came in and was like, holy shit, okay, we need to update these ships so they're not putting out as much carbon monoxide. And the only ships that still haven't met these requirements is the Chinese ships in a lot of cases.
We did, and
They've
you bring
tried to update it,
right,
like
and
as slow as humanly possible. But it's like, how do we get these folks to cooperate with us in a better way, I
so
guess.
here's and then you bring up a really great point, and for me, I like to look at Utah Physicians for Clean Living, and look at what's going on specifically in the Uinta Basin, which is obviously home to Skinwalker Ranch and the oil and gas industry, which has in a lot of people's minds has definitely contributed to an environmental catastrophe that has had significant effects on not only what's happening here in Utah. And there was an article, and I would encourage everybody to go out and look at this. I think it was written maybe 6 or 7 years ago, by the Rolling Stones and Rolling Stone magazine, and they were interviewing a midwife up in that area, and for quite a significant period of time, every delivery that she had was a stillbirth. And then she
Mm.
started digging into some of the environmental aspects of that and was completely shut down. And so when we look at pollution and we look at other countries who are participating in things like that, I just shine a light on, let's go back to the Uinta Basin. Let's go back to
Yeah,
how many
no,
people are being affected. And you could say, here you've got people saying, hey, Skinwalker Ranch, you're dying of cancer because you've been exposed to a UFO. Well, yet what's going on in the environment near Skinwalker Ranch, what's happening with the Uinta Basin Railway, where we're going to be
is
exporting
that an
all of
issue
this
in the
stuff.
Uinta
So
Basin, like high levels of cancer and things like that?
if you look at some of the health studies up there, that's pretty significant. And there is, from my understanding, the thinning of the ozone in that area because of what's taking place with the industry is pretty significant.
Well, there was not a lot of nuclear bombs set off there, right?
That
Well, not in the
was
Uinta
that
Basin,
was kind of
but
the downwinder, but we felt
yeah.
downwinders. We felt the effects from what took place in the Nevada test site and things that we've experimented on here. And so there is, there here in Utah, and you look at the Great Salt Lake too. I'll just talk a little bit about this for a second since we're talking about the environment. There's been a lot, and I'm sure you've seen this in the news about, one of the largest bodies of uh, salt water in the world, like the Great Salt Lake, which is really home to a pristine ecosystem, which is drying up, and as a result, this is creating toxic dust because of the mining that has taken place for decades and pumping arsenic and pumping really deadly chemicals into the lake. And now that it's drying up, it's having a very detrimental and alarming effect on people, not only in the community, but this will be affecting people all over the world. And so it's, you look at, different countries, and everybody has a responsibility. And what are we doing, here?
Yeah.
And to me, I think these things are important. I mean,
No,
these
for sure.
again.
We need to get way. I look, we're better than most countries, but that doesn't mean there's not room for a lot of improvement. And I think the first step was the EPA, but there's been no sort of like real sort of enforcement of it. I guess when companies are able to get away with that, and they say like, especially like that train spill that just happened, like there should maybe be executives that go to prison because of that. Like the BP oil spill, I was shocked that nobody was prosecuted for that natural disaster. Like inexcusable,
I
completely
remember that.
disgusting. And
Yep.
so yeah, that's we are very guilty of it. So yeah, we have to look. I think you hit something perfectly, is that I think we have to look at our own house first, because if we can get this right and lead by example, as opposed to um uh leading with a gun strapped to your chest, like there's a difference. And so I think from a world example, to bolster that American exceptionalism, to be that beacon in the world where everybody's like, man, I'd love to go there one day. That's the dream. That's the constant evolution and sort of experiment that is our country. And I agree with you, girl. Like I think there has to be us. There has to be people like Jack Brewer. There has to be people like you. There has to be people like, um, I always think of like some of my favorite politicians, like Ron Paul, or I love Dennis Kucinich. I mean, I loved Ralph Nader. John F. Kennedy. Like genuine civic leaders, people who didn't stop because it felt like pissing in the wind. Sometimes it always feels like you're pissing in the wind. It's always an uphill battle. It's hard to it's hard to lead. It's hard to show people, and sometimes it's a like it's not a path for everyone. And I think for me, it's it's not a path that I could participate in full time, because I've got other passions. I've got other loves that I need to devote myself to. And
And I think that's great. I
yeah,
mean, and I, I mean, I've had many candid conversations on my show about, okay, at what point in time do I just say, peace out, you guys, I'm
yeah,
done? Because, every time you turn around, you've got, 20 more haters, or you've got, I mean, people that are really literally trying to run interference with you because you are affecting their money,
mm,
and political life, and things. And it's a hard thing. And I sometimes, in fact, I remember, this is really kind of a funny story. Back when I was getting into this publicly, I remember going to the grocery store, and hearing two mothers talk about their kids playing soccer, standing next to the ground beef.
yeah.
And I just remember thinking, God, I, I wish that I could just, in a way, be like that, and, have go to work from 9 in the morning until 5, and pick up my kids, and, um, and then, and live in that reality.
A
I
routine.
mean, that would be, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
and go to art classes, and
yeah,
go make music, and do all of these things that I really love to do,
yeah.
and I will continue to do them. I just, but it is a hard line, and it is an important
It's
line to
it's
draw
something that I've been
between.
exploring for now the last almost 7 months. It's why my Twitter handle, or in there, it says 0 days UFO sober, because every single day there is a naturalistic part of me that is always going to be drawn and always going to want to have an opinion or talk or explore or think in a different way. Like, I loved when I discovered Jack Brewer's interview. Like, I absolutely loved it. I love moments like that. And so every day I'm going to have my weakness. I'm going to have my indulgence. But like any indulgence or any vice, there's a limit. And I think with this topic, and that's why I was so adamant earlier about this topic, is not, it's not the civil rights movement. It's not, protesting against the war in Vietnam. It's not protesting disgusting appointees either to the Supreme Court or the Oval Office. Like, like I think that it's always going to be a good thing to just to indulge yourself, but don't go overboard with the vice. And I think, for me, you know, I'm an artist as well. I love to paint. I
Is that
painted
one of
that.
yours?
Yeah, I love to golf. I love to do improv. I love to do sketch comedy at the Upright Citizens Brigade. I absolutely love and adore these things, and in these communities and these subcultures, I am loved and adored just as much as I give love and adoration, and it's a mutual give and take thing. When it comes to UFOs or the phenomenon or whatever you want to label it, there's never it's very difficult to get genuine moments and conversations like this, because I think any other two people that got to the contentious part that maybe we got to, whether, and I think it's all my fault just because I'm very blunt and sometimes I come off like I'm being an asshole, and I'm really not trying to
Oh,
be. I'm
no,
just
no, it's okay.
genuinely telling you how I feel.
Right.
And I know that I have this kind of rapport with you where I could spit these things off of you, and you're not going to shut the fucking camera off and kick me out of the studio, because you have the patience, you have the awareness. And the thing with this, it's rare to get conversations like this in this space. And I think it's the same for the opposite of our crowd. Like, I think when they get into their spaces, into their it's a comfort blanket. I think this, in a way, for us is a comfort blanket as well. The ability to, hey, look, this is what we saw wrong with it. These are the red flags. This is what I think you should look for. And again, like, when this camera's off, like, I've got scripts to study. I've got a girlfriend to call. I've got, I've got, there's so, I gotta go to bed because I gotta wake up super early for work tomorrow morning. Like, there's a ton of stuff to do. And I think, when I say you don't owe anybody anything, again, it's not like, I'm not trying to be dismissive of the cause
No, I
or
know
the
what you're saying.
justification of it. Like, I think it's more, you are more important than trying to save people that in a lot of cases don't want to be saved. And I think it's always a good thing to stay constant, be there, so that way you can play defense when you feel it's necessary to play defense. And so that way you can get those, you know, two out of 10 people that are like, hey man, thanks for doing that show. Like, I didn't know that. Like, and this has got me thinking in a new and better way. Like, and like the thing that I found really enlightening about Jack Brewer's interview with Thomas Winterman is every time there was a legitimate question asked, it was met with, well, this is what it's accomplished. This is what it's bringing into the state. This is how it's benefiting people. Like, it's like, whoa, okay, great. Awesome. I mean, you don't have any of the numbers to prove any of those things you just said. But what about the original question? And it's just like it doesn't get answered, and that's frustrating. And I think moments like that enlighten people, and I think it does work, and I think it is valid, and it is important to do. But what I'm saying is, once you're done editing the thing you're doing, like I did my Bob Lazar video that I edited, and I for 2 solid weeks was doing nothing but editing. and I've taken a big break. Like I'm like, okay,
It's
2
hard.
weeks, and let me just sit back, relax, see what happens, see what I want to do next. Like really give some thought into, okay, what do I want to either vent about or indulge in? What do I want to indulge in? And then once I get my little taste, I'm out, girl. I'm out. I'm playing golf. I'm memorizing sketches. I life is way too short to try and feel like you owe anybody a fucking thing. Like you especially don't owe anybody a goddamn thing. Nothing. Um and I'm really proud to know you. I'm really happy like where we've been, you and I. Like it's just been such a cool little journey. And I know we disagree on some of this stuff. I see cruel businessmen all the time. I see shrewd people all the time. And I think this charade is par for the course when it comes to American business and politics. I think if the wake of bodies is low enough, and then it doesn't rock any boats that are tied up to the docks. You know what I mean? And they still get to cruise right through the canal and get to their destination of, more political influence, more money, more TV shows, more whatever that is manifesting itself into. Is it right? No.
Well, this
Is it?
canal is closed. They're not cruising through
Yeah.
this one.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. You take a different route. No, I get it. Like, and that's good.
Hitch yourself to
Like,
the Uinta Basin Railway, mothers, because
yeah.
you're gonna need that to get
Yeah.
out of. I mean, I know.
Curse, Erica. Am I allowed to curse on your show? I didn't
I
even
think you
ask
already
you.
have.
Yeah, I
So
have. Yeah. I do. I'm sorry.
no,
Did
no,
I
no, it's
break a
okay.
rule?
It's just no, it's funny. It's been an interesting conversation as always,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
look, this stuff frustrates people, right? Like you want to curse, you want to let out the frustration. I think that stuff is healthy. Let it out. Like like when you said that Thomas Winterton's dad is an active senator, freak. All right, I won't curse, but that gets my blood boiling. That boils my blood. That chaps my butt.
well,
I don't not like that one bit.
conflict of
One
interest. Nothing.
bit.
I mean, yeah, it is interesting, and like I said, yeah, yes, it is interesting, and I'm glad that Jack and I have helped to shine a light. And I think the really cool thing I will just give Jack props about here is the fact that he has done all of this research that has nothing to do, with the UFO scene. This is doing
Right.
grammar requests. This is digging into lots of other things. And
Contracts.
as I mean, and at the
City
end of the day,
contracts.
it's like
Yeah.
we've received mainstream media coverage because of this, not because
Yeah.
of the UFO stuff. It's because of the
No,
real world work that we are doing on exposing some of these things. And so I'm
Erica,
eternally
it's
grateful,
impressive.
yeah,
It's
I'm
insanely impressive. And yeah, like I full disclosure, like I didn't know Jack very well. I wasn't aware of his writings. I've been paying attention though for the last week. And I'm super impressed. Super impressed. And you're right, it has nothing to do with the UFO. I think UFO and Skinwalker, when I say UFOs, like I kind of just meld these things together just because they also report UFOs there. It's just spooky city, but like yeah, that was so essential. And the fact that Thomas Winterton's response is like, well, you're not from Utah, why should you care? Well, because it's got an air of arrogance to it, because
really, your show is broadcast all over the world.
it,
Okay.
it, it feels, I love the way he put it. He's like, it feels like political corruption, right? Like you can see how that's fair. Like from my perspective, from my shoes, like it doesn't feel good that your dad is a senator writing contracts for UFO cons and God knows what kind of tax breaks for film production companies wanting to show up and shoot the Spooky Ranch, and the trademarks that you put on behind it, and the movies and like you say you're not profiting, but where, like, the term Skinwalker is trademark. So if somebody's putting it on their film or on their screenplay or on their TV show or they're on their T-shirt, they have to pay you for the rights to do that. Like that's you're making money off it. It's entertainment. Cool. Again, awesome, man. If that's what it is, then say that's what it is. But it is not science. It is just not science. And I think that's, for me, the bottom line. Like, is it fun? Is it entertaining? Do people take it too seriously sometimes? Yep. Is it gotten to a point where it's reached local and state government? Yeah. I think if you guys bring enough attention to it, I think I don't know. I'm not a Utah constituent, but I know if I lived in Utah, my dad lives in Utah. I don't think he'd be thrilled to know that his tax dollars are going to UFO cons and TV personalities.
Well, and especially because, like I mentioned on the Fox 13 news piece by Nate Carlisle, I mean, you've got this whole area that is so rich in history.
Native American history.
I mean, my Lord, you've got these wonderful petroglyphs. You've got the story of indigenous peoples in that area. You've got all of these things that should be highlighted. I mean, the Mormon settlers. You've got, it's so rich and then significant in many, many ways. Why in the heck would you? Why would you? I just sounded like Grandma Moses there, but why would you actually? Why wouldn't you spend money for travel and tourism to promote these areas of interest? Those are real. They're important. They deserve to be preserved, and that history needs to be told. And so none of it makes any sense.
I agree with you. It's just not as sexy. Like, and you have to agree with me on that, right? Like,
I don't think Tom Winterton and Brandon Fugler are particularly sexy.
I'm not. Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not looking at the men as sexy.
Cray.
I'm looking at the story, the sensationalism of it. It's not as sensational. It's yeah. We've heard about indigenous tribes. We've heard about petroglyphs. We've heard about these things. Okay, big deal. I think that's what a congressman or a Brandon Fugel or whoever is thinking. I think when you throw in their Skinwalker, oh my God, you're giving. And I have a feeling that ranch is eventually going to open up to tours like all the time. I have a feeling that's coming, and that's going to be a big tourist attraction, whether you like it or not. And they're thinking 10 years down the road. They're not thinking today. These little things they're making money on, that's just wetting the beak. Like, they want to make Roswell, New Mexico look like, whatever.
I think, though, the difference is, there are homes that abut the property, and so this is an impact to a lot of people around there.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure
Trust
they'll
me when
figure
I
it
tell
out.
you, they'll figure it out, because guess what? Here in Hollywood, do you think the millionaires and not even the stars, but the people that live next door to Brad Pitt that have to see a bus come in front of their house every day, packed full of people taking pictures because they think your house is next to Brad Pitt's, like, who wants that in their neighborhood?
But I would be willing to bet, though, you've got a big security gate around your property, and you've got enough property that these people aren't climbing over.
Brad Pitt doesn't have a huge fence over his.
What I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying I think that like when you're, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
I see what I'm just saying from a civics political perspective. Like, I could see how the city would be like, yeah, that's between, just as long as it's done between this hour and this hour, and these cars and people are gone by dusk, we're cool with it.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're going to do it at night, it's a limited amount. Like, you can only have so many people or whatever. I don't know. But they'll figure it out. Like I think they're trying to make it a place that attracts people to Utah. And whether we like to admit it or not, it does.
But
It
here's a
does.
weird
It's
thing
like
though, and I
the
know
state
we've got to
haunted
get ready
house.
to wrap up, but it attracts people to Utah, but you can't go near the property. You can't, I mean,
Yet.
like I'm saying, the whole area around it is private property. It's not easily accessible. You can't walk to the, you know what I mean?
No,
It's,
no, no. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that ranch could be it could be accessed by the public with permission from the ranch. So if they want to do tours there and not intrude on the neighbors, they could do that.
but they would
Like
have
they
to
could,
drive through neighborhoods to do that and encroach
no,
on,
of
you know what I
course they would,
mean?
but I'm telling you, they'd figure it out. Like if it's something that they that especially if they're pitching to the city council, you know how many dollars this is going to bring in when we open this up? Like I promise you, a couple of complaining neighbors will line your pockets with a little bit of this money here and just write the laws in our favors. And that happens. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Like
oh,
you and I both
of course.
know.
I mean,
Like
absolutely. And
it's rampant. It's rampant. So
but there are
I think,
cattle farms. I mean, so I mean, it is a little
yeah,
bit. And when you go there, there are people who are definitely resentful of this. And you also have the, I believe it's the Roosevelt. Uh, oh my gosh, I've got to
well,
do my fact
Erica,
checking. So anyway, Roosevelt, the Roosevelt City Council or the tourism in Roosevelt actually got mugs and T-shirts printed up promoting Skinwalker Ranch, and they were apparently told that they couldn't use Skinwalker Ranch.
of course not.
So
Of
even
course
though
not.
we're supposed to be there to
Yeah.
promote tourism and the
Yeah.
local economy,
Only our licensed
right?
material in tourism. Yes. I mean, like, and I think of it from this perspective, okay? Like when you say ranches and cow fields, that's what my neighborhood back in Florida used to look like 25, 30 years ago. You look at it today, all of those ranches and all of those things are gone. They're gone. I think they're looking at these pieces of properties as opportunities to develop, opportunities to again, they're not thinking of now, they're thinking of 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And who's to say everybody has their price? You buy the neighboring properties and you develop whatever the hell you want there. Now it doesn't really matter. And I think that's not a crazy leap to make, considering that the person behind this is a real estate developer. That's the terms in which he thinks in. He thinks in the future like that. He thinks of, okay, if I buy and build a huge building here, how is that going to affect me in 10, 15, 20 years? And I think that's what Skinwalker Ranch is that it's an opportunity for a businessman. As unsatisfying as that is, and as dirty as it feels, that I mean, that's what it feels like, man. I don't know. I don't know. Am I crazy?
I think, obviously, yeah, I mean, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I
I,
tell you what, I'm
I
gonna like need to sleep in tomorrow after this interview. This is
well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad I made you, you know, be on your heels and toes. Like,
and you
I
did.
always love engaging conversation, and yeah, it's let's just keep poking. Just keep poking,
Oh, I'm
you
a
know,
poke.
and
I'm a
and let's
poker.
see what happens. Let's see what happens,
And
We'll
thank you
see.
so much. Thank you
No,
for
it's my
being on the
absolute
show. We
pleasure.
barely just
Yeah.
like touched on
I know,
what
and I
happens.
really want to get Jack's perspective on this too. Like that would be wonderful. So I'm willing to anytime if you guys want to have me back.
Yes,
I
yeah,
know I
no,
cursed a
we
couple
would love
times,
that. No,
so
Jack has
you
been
know,
communicating with me, and he's really sad that he can't, that his internet connection is not happening
yeah.
tonight and stuff.
Well,
And
I just want
I
to
would
say
love
also
that.
to everyone in the audience, like, hey, if I offended you, seriously, nothing personal. It's not. I'm not coming. I'm not trying to attack anyone here. I'm just saying, like, there's a big world out there, man, and there's a lot of stuff to enjoy, even if we are living in the matrix. Like, like there's a lot of stuff to enjoy, a lot of stuff to do,
No, that's true.
and
And you know
and
what? Like,
important conversations always need to be had, and I think this is an important conversation.
no,
So
it's
thanks for
been
having me.
great. We've touched on a lot of different things, and I will say that I'm going to start my golfing back up. It's been a
Great. Let me
while. I
play.
know.
I've played in Utah. I can't remember the name of the course.
We've got some great golf courses
You
here.
got some
Apparently,
really nice
Tiger
golf
Woods
courses.
is building, designing a new golf course, which is great during a drought. But hey, love golfing.
Yeah, it's
But
it's look, it's
golfing is a great game.
I don't think we need. I'm not advocating for more built golf courses. I think we have enough. Like, I agree. I don't think it's environmentally sort of the best thing to do to just fucking knock down trees so you can hit a ball in a little hole. Like, yeah.
I'm just
Sorry. Are
kidding.
you
I'm sorry.
Mormon,
No,
Erica?
no, no. I'm sorry.
Am I breaking every Mormon rule on this? Are you Mormon? Is that too
You know
personal a
what?
question?
Actually, I was baptized. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Why?
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
like,
I
honestly,
cursed. I saw you go like this. I'm sorry.
no, I was
I
just
didn't mean to
laughing
curse.
because it was funny that, like, you're talking about something you enjoy, like golfing and
Yeah.
things, and I'm like, I like golfing too, but then I'm like, but the water and going
Yeah.
back, to me, it's
Yeah.
just like,
No, it's
okay,
like you can't enjoy
tonight,
anything. You can't
Erica
enjoy
Lukes is
anything.
turning off her brain. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
paint, and I'm not gonna
Good.
paint aliens. I'm painting seascapes and happy clouds, and life will be good.
I'll paint me as a happy cloud. I'd love to see that.
Oh, okay. You've given me
Challenge,
okay.
art challenge thrown on the table.
I think you'd make a perfect happy cloud, actually.
I think so too. I can also make a very dark cloud too if you really want to go there. I'm good with that too.
Okay, depends on
Yeah,
this will
whatever
be a great
inspires
art project. But thank you for joining me. This has been fun, and I really appreciate you just being candid and open. And so, Lou Reviews, that's where
Blue
everybody can
reviews.
find your new show on YouTube.
Yeah,
And you are doing a variety of different things, which is cool. So, little UFO, but then you're reviewing different things, and you're
yeah.
really
Movies,
being
video games,
you, which
food.
is like a comic, an actor, somebody who enjoys engaging. And so I wish you the best and just keep on keeping
I
on.
will. I will. And yeah, anytime. I'd love to. Yeah, really want to talk to Jack and pick his
Okay, I
brain
will get
and see where I'm wrong. Like if I'm wrong, on anything I said tonight, I always am open to be like, okay, cool, stand corrected. Like, yeah, that's interesting information. I'll always love that moments like that. So yeah, and I think
absolutely.
you guys are great researchers. So learning from you guys is always fun.
What's fun, and like I said, I do appreciate the fact that, you can, it's like, okay, wait a minute, I was wrong. Here I am making a mistake. And I think that's an important, thing to do.
Human
And,
man.
you got to do it. And I appreciate that about you. And
Especially with this topic, it's like you're gonna be wrong all the time, because it's confusing, it's deceiving, it's manipulative, there's a cat and mouse, it's everything, it's everything.
you're not kidding. But tonight,
Yeah,
it's a happy Lou cloud.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, my darling.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Take care. Absolutely.
it.
It's nice to have you here.
Ciao.
So that was really fun, you guys. I want to just thank Lou again for being here. And I want to say, Jack Brewer, I'm sorry you couldn't join me, but I know you were here and listening to the show. And hopefully we will have you on again with Lou to address some of the questions that he has. You can go to expandingfrontiersresearch.org to subscribe to our newsletter, see the blog, see our research, and also if you are kind enough to donate, we would appreciate that. It takes a lot to do research, to do grammar requests, to continue all of these things, and we appreciate your donations. Make sure you click like, subscribe. I appreciate all of your comments in chat. And Jim, I'm sorry I didn't get to address some of the comments about UFOs and Skinwalker Ranch. Sometimes multitasking and responding in chat is a little bit difficult, but I appreciate all of you for being here and being loyal and supporting me and my work wherever it leads us. So thanks for the ride. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you guys next week. And then I've just got to throw this out here. So Jen Aldrich is coming to visit me for 2 weeks. You guys, Jen Aldrich is a UFO historian, archivist. He's been on my show many times. So he will be here for 2 weeks going through the archive. And so that means we will be doing live shows with Jen Aldrich, no technical difficulties here. And then following that, Alice Druffel is going to be here, and we'll be doing a live show together. Super, super cool. I'm looking forward to it. So May's going to be an exciting month for Expanding Frontiers. So you guys have a wonderful night, and thanks, you guys. And hopefully I can actually do the outro, but I dare to dream. All right, you guys.